Kilkenny doing a run around Croke Park. This is the sort of thing that's attracting the crowd of over 50,000. Meanwhile, Richie Power takes the free, which is the main business. And Richie raises the white flag again. That's his third point of the match. This is ridiculous.
Well, the man I'm blaming for Declan Ryan has to take action and take off Larry Corbett, because he hasn't made no attempt to play the game since the start of it. I don't know what he's playing at or what he's trying to do, but it's an absolute joke at this stage.
To Tommy Walsh's credit, he's not responding to it, although I know he's on a yellow card. Ball comes in, chasing after this. JJ Delaney and company are back there. Sent down front of the Hogan. Aidan Fogarty is underneath it. Equally as good under the high ball. He's working hard. Lays it back. Farrell's JJ Delaney. It's a good ball inside. Brendan Cummins comes off his goal line. Gets away from Colin Finlay. And then steps into the space and drives it long. Dropping ball. Patrick Bonamar gets a touch. Taking the hit again. JJ Delaney. Playing well. Jackie Tyrrell actually. Tyrrell drives it long. Coming through the centre is Aidan Fogarty. He has the space. He's on the 20. Takes a shot. And it's in the back of the net. Brilliant goal by Aidan Fogarty. And Kilkenny rejoice. And rightly so. A cracking shot by the Emeralds man Aidan Fogarty. And Brendan Cummins just got a touch, but he couldn't stop Fogarty's rocket.
That is a classic goal, a brilliant wing forward play. Tommy Stapleton never moved in the right half back position, and Aidan Fogarty, made a 40-yard run, absolutely brilliant goal.
Now can Tipperary respond for the second time to a Kilkenny goal? First it was TJ Reid, then Pat Burke. Now it's Aidan Fogarty. Tipperary, character being tested. Ball goes out for a 65.
But the difference in the attitude, Marty, that's what it's all about. Aidan Fogarty has scored 1-3 from play. He's playing
is Brian O'Mara. So a change in the Tipperary full forward line. Pa Burke to take the free. And Mr. Consistency all the way through. He now has a personal tally of a goal and 8 points. Brian Cody must be well pleased with the response of his team from the hammering that they received from Galway here in the Leinster Hurling final. They're showing the mettle of true champions. Stepping away from the challenge, Aidan Fogarty. Pádraig Maher getting a hook in. Ball comes back out towards Colin Finlay. In comes Richie Power. Confronting him is Shane McGrath. Pádraig Maher is there as well. Helmet is gone. The sliotar is still there. And the referee says it's a free out. And again, tempers are frayed. Richie Power wondering, what have I got to do here to get a free? He's saying the helmet was pulled off it. Let's just watch this again.
Shane McGrath comes into tackle here, grabs him by the helmet and pulls his helmet off. That's actually a yellow card as well.
He literally pulled the helmet off him.
Yeah, but I can't believe that Thomas Stapleton has been left on Aidan Fogarty. He's gone off there and maybe substituted there now. I think maybe Paddy Stapleton might have come in while this has been going on.
Change in the Tipperary team. Paddy Stapleton in for Thomas Stapleton as the ball comes back down far as Brian Hogan. Centre back playing in a cornerback or fullback position there momentarily. Ball in the centre. Bursting involved is Pádraig Maher. Stepping forward to the challenge. About to be hooked, puts it into the space. Ball carried a little bit too much pace. David Herity deals with it more than adequately. Kieran Joyce goes for distance. Easy ball for fullback and captain Paul Kern. Lays it off for his Pádraig Maher. Patrick Bonamar goes up for it. Brian Hogan judges it to perfection. Ball swung over this side. Owen Larkin gets a touch. Coming forward is Aidan Fogarty. Paul Kern is there, leading by example, winning the dirty ball and trying to start a Tipperary move. Brendan Maher laying it inside. Noel McGrath, nice ball inside for John O'Brien. Scored once already. This one looks a little bit short, but it comes back off the post. Still a little bit of pressure for David Herity. This time he deals with it impressively.
Settle down, get some sort of a formation on their forward line and concentrate on playing ball up there, that they're still not gone out of this game.
Batted away by Michael Cahill. Killian Buckley is at the end of it waiting for it. And he scores in this All-Ireland semi-final. Substitute has done well since introduced from Michael Rice. It's Kilkenny now 2:15, Tipperary 1:30. Great catch by John O'Brien. Just took his eye off it momentarily. Ahead of JJ Delaney, putting the Hurley in there. It's Delaney onto the left-hand side. Nice touch by Paddy Stapleton. Farris Noel McGrath operating around the 40, dropping in a little bit short. Easy ball for David Herity, who wisely goes for distance. Remember, Kilkenny playing with a strong wind in this second half. Paul Curran being chased by two Kilkenny players. Gets it out for his Conor O'Mahony. O'Mahony under pressure from Colin Fennelly. Curran is there, trying to get past TJ Reid. Flicks it forward for his Paddy Stapleton. Under pressure, three Kilkenny forwards converge, and it comes to the man who has the scoring touch of a goal and 3 points, Aidan Fogarty. And again, the referee's whistle is blown, and it is a free in for Kilkenny.
Well, that was unbelievable tackling, Marty. TJ Reid, Owen Larkin, both very involved in. Again, Aidan Fogarty, who's been everywhere, back onto the breaking ball again and fouled. And you know, the intensity of the tackling from the very start from the Kilkenny forwards has been huge. The tip backs just can't get out with the ball, and as a result they're playing very, very poor ball into their own forward line. And, you know, as I said earlier, Tip have no shape in their forward line. They've no full forward line in place in there, and they're pucking ball straight into the goalie.
Henry Shefflin. Easy for a player with that quality. 6 points between the teams. Kilkenny, by the way, have scored 1 goal and 7 points to Tipperary's 3 points in this second half. Brian Hogan begins to dominate the middle channel at number 6. Down towards Henry Shefflin. Owen Larkin putting the challenge in and winning the hard ball against Paul Curran. He leaves Curran for dead, and Owen Larkin scores. The captain of Kilkenny beats the captain of Tipperary, and he strokes it beautifully past one of the best keepers in the game. His name is Brendan Cummins, but Owen Larkin scores for the first time in the All-Ireland semi-final, and surely he's booked the Cats for a place in the All-Ireland final against Galway.
Well, absolutely, Marty. Watch it again here. Owen Larkin hasn't quite enough last couple of games, but he's been sharp today. Just walked around Paul Curran there, and great finish into the corner of the net. And as you say, look at what a fantastic second half display from Kilkenny. We were still talking about where Lara was, and Henry Shefflin had brought them level, and since then their attitude, their commitment, their desire has never waned, and some brilliant finishing since, and their attitude is absolutely fantastic. And I just don't know what, you know, I'd be surprised by Tipperary's attitude. Lara Corbett shouldn't be left on the field, in my opinion, with the way he went on since the start of the game. And I think that, you know, the likes of Owen Kelly and Seamus Callan still sitting on the sideline at this stage of the game, and the game is over now really as a contest.
Well, Paul Curran, it must be said, seemed to pick up an injury as Owen Larkin took a step into a different gear and bypassed him as such.
Well, they're worn out, the tip backs, but the tackling of the Kilkenny forwards is savage since the start of the game, and they're just not able for the intensity of it.
Now, what if Tipperary got in their tank and their artillery? Because at the moment it's all Kilkenny, showing why they have been one of the best teams we've seen in the game of hurling for many years. TJ Reid lays it off as Richie Powell. Positions mean absolutely nothing. You may be named a corner forward, you could end up wing back, because that's the position of Richie Powell and TJ Reid at times have been. This time it's a free out for Tipperary as Paul Curran wins a free, hard earned it must be said, against Henry Shefflin and company. And there is a yellow card for Henry Shefflin, who seemed to stand on Paul Curran's hurley, I think, there as Curran was trying to get up off the ground. So it's a yellow card for Henry Shefflin. Free taken by Brendan Cummins. Remember, this is a game that was level on 8 occasions. But look at the top of your screen, now 9 points between the teams. Shane Burke trying to win one back, but unfortunately for him, it's to the left and wide. So it remains 25 points to 16, or 316 to 113. Tuck out by David Herity. Dropping down towards TJ Reid. Loose ball. Picked up on this occasion by Aidan Fogarty. back to Reid, who have tormented the Tipperary defence. Fennelly lays it off to Larkin, going for goal number 2, and Paul Curran takes him down, and that is unquestionably first a yellow card and a penalty as well.
Absolutely, great ball again. TJ Reid, who's really had a great game today, up this game, great diagonal ball, and Colin Fennelly, you know, he's so strong, great one possession, ball bounced up, caught it first time and laid off a lovely little hand pass to Owen Larkin, bursting through and just dragged down by Paul Curran. And I think it's only a 21, just outside the maybe a large parallelogram. I think it's just a 21-yard free, and Henry will tap it over.
20-metre free for Henry Shefflin, and he drives it well beyond Hill 16 as well.
Oh, he didn't tap it over, but tapped it over the hill. A lovely little hand pass there by Colin Fennelly, and you know Paul Curran had no choice really.
A loose ball again. Aidan Fogarty chases after it. Paul Murphy is there too. He's the right corner back, and playing now almost in midfield. Fine catch by Paul Curran, who continues to give it everything.
Well, you mentioned the Kilkenny backs, Marty. They've never deviated from the plan. From the start of the game, Paul Murphy has picked up Noel McGrath, Tommy has picked up Ta Burke, Brian Hogan has picked up Bonner Maher, and so on. Jackie Hurley's been on Lara Corbett, and JJ Delaney has been on John O'Brien, and they haven't changed since the start of the game.
Ta Burke dropping this one in. Lara Corbett was near it, but didn't get a touch. Ball is wide. But Cyril Farrell made a point at half-time, Michael, about he thought that possibly the fittest team would win this semi-final, and certainly Kilkenny have showed.
Well, both teams are very fit. I don't think that's an issue. But a lot of fitness comes from determination and from drive and heart, and Kilkenny have shown more of that.
There's no question about that. They've given it everything. 10 minutes since Tipperary scored in this All-Ireland semi-final. As Kilkenny have really stepped up a gear. Pádraig Ma, Tommy Walsh. This is the old flamboyant Tommy Walsh, and the cheer from the Kilkenny supporters says, welcome back to 4. Owen Larkin, great catch on the turn. What about the finish? It's wide. 56 minutes played, and Kilkenny very much in control now. Ball comes down towards Paddy Stapleton. Quick puck out from Brendan Cummins. And that's going to be a free for Tipperary.
Yeah, and Kieran Joyce, you know, another player has had a very, very solid big call to leave off Richard Isle, who's been very good all year for them. But I think Brian Cody just went for more physical strength and power, and it's really worked out for them.
Ball breaks. JJ Delaney vacuums up as usual. Little touch by Aidan Fogarty. Tries to get away from Paddy Stapleton. Stapleton without a hurl. Owen Larkin with a hurl, picks it up nicely, and there's more trouble for Tipperary. TJ Reid coming in. Lovely jink inside. A rasper. Another goal. Kilkenny are back to their very best. Who are we to question it? Hammered by Galway in the Leinster final. This is a mark of a truly magnificent team to respond to the challenge.
Yeah,
TJ Reid stepping inside and an absolute rocket.
Michael Cahill lunged in, and I think Paul Curran there, you could see a hurl coming through there. Paul Curran through the hurl as well, lucky to be still on the field just after getting the yellow card. But Marty, I think you're right. I think once again, I didn't write off the Kilkenny team, but sort of thought on the balance of power the tip maybe should be improving coming to this match. Thought that the momentum was with them, and questioned them again, and losing Richie Hogan, Eddie Brennan gone, Michael Kavanagh retired, lads like that, and Michael Rice gone off injured today. And what a performance again! Like, they're just, we've said it so many times, the greatest team of all time. But what can we say? Another absolutely brilliant performance today.
And what a manager! Brian Cody in his 14th year in charge, once again spreading the Cody magic, sprinkling it, and they have responded. They were quite in Kilkenny when I was down there yesterday for the All-Ireland Camogie semi-finals. Oh boy, what a response.
Yeah, see Michael Cahill bought the dummy and a great goal.
Puck out from Brendan Cummins, pulled down by JJ Delaney. John O'Brien is there, so too is Aidan Fogarty. Really played well. Brendan Maher and Tommy Walsh. Up into the air. Short little grip. Comes for his TJ Reid. Bats it out for his Aidan Fogarty, who have tormented Tipperary. Fogarty's shot just dropping a little bit short. Brendan Cummins looks around at various options, and there aren't many for the Munster champions. Patrick Bonner-Marr unable to control it. Goes forward for his Killian Buckley. Buckley drives it long and plays it simple. Down towards Owen Larkin and Richie Parr. Coming out towards Aidan Fogarty. Staying goal side is Paddy Stapleton. Fogarty looks back out first, TJ Reid. Trying that little jink again and then flings it high. Oh my word! It drops over the bar with a little bit of help from Brendan Cummins. But TJ Reid, what a magnificent point!
That's an unbelievable score, Marty. You know what again? And I'm so, you know, some players, you know, things don't go for them when they start maybe over the years. And TJ Reid has come on and made massive contributions over the years. He's a brilliant hurler, brilliant in the air. But today, from the very, very start, he's been so crucial to this Kilkenny game plan, and that's an absolutely brilliant point by TJ.
Paul Curran has gone off for Tipperary, and Dunamar from Burgess is in. And Kilkenny, such great fielders like Brian Hogan. First touch is magnificent. Michael Findlay, short grip, steps away, the umpires look, and the ball is wide. 4-19 Kilkenny, 1-13 Tipperary. Who would think it? Considering that the teams were level 8 times. But the Kilkenny determination, spirit, is unquenchable. And here comes Tommy, wee Tommy, full of fire, full of energy. Laying it off as Colin Fennelly, stepping away from the challenge as Kilkenny now exhibit all their magnificent skills. And this ball, unfortunately for Fennelly, is left and wide. They've shot, by the way, just 7 wides in this game, and they've registered 4-19. 3-10, 3 goals and 10 points in the second half for the Kilkenny Cats. Just 3 points for Tipperary. What an awesome second half.
Yeah, what a catch there by JJ Delaney. An absolutely brilliant catch. And Brian Hogan, I think, has caught about 6 puck-outs clean as well.
Pádraig Barr being fouled by Richie Parr. Free for Tipperary. To be honest with you, it's well beyond the Munster champions at this stage. Loose breaking ball picked up by Tommy Walsh. And all the sideshows and all the game plans that were going on are now null and void. Irrelevant. Oh dear. Pádraig Barr. That is a red card offence. And I have no doubt that Carl McAllister, who saw it just as clearly as we did, will take aside Pádraig Barr and will show him a red card here.
It's pure frustration, but a very, very wild swing. And in fairness to TJ Reid, made nothing of it. But it's very hard to see anything else.
Let's just see what the decision of the referee is, because he's saying, let's keep it calm. He's first taking the name of Pádraig Barr. To be honest with you, it is the second wild pull out of Pádraig Barr, and it's just a yellow card. Well, I have to be honest, I really am surprised at that.
Well, you know, just looking at it initially, comes right around here. He missed him. That's about all you can say. He pulled a wild stroke. If he'd made contact, you know, it was a very, very dangerous pull, and he didn't connect. But you know, the rule is it should be a red card.
Henry Shefflin there with a point. But just watch this again. And it was a pull.
No, he
like
got him on the shoulder. It was a wild stroke, and TJ Reid never made anything of it. But you know, like, it's to strike or attempt to strike with the hurl is a red card, and Pádraig Barr very, very lucky.
No doubt Pádraig Barr should be gone off, to be honest with you. And John O'Brien is going off. And it has been a very tough week for him indeed. And again, we express our sympathies to the O'Brien family, and a huge round of applause for John O'Brien. As Michael Dykeman said, really it's been a terrible week, and he's done well to be here. So Tipperary bring in substitute John O'Neill into the team instead of John O'Brien. Lar Corbett going forward here. JJ Delaney. Nicely knocked back by Patrick Bonner-Marr. Lovely hand pass by Lar Corbett, and the ball is into the side netting and wide. But lovely play by Tipperary, and particularly by Lar Corbett, with a really slick back pass. But unfortunately for John O'Neill, side netting. So Kilkenny are going to introduce not 1, not 2, but 3 substitutes. Matthew Ruth is going to be coming on. Richie Doyle is on. Who's number 23 is Matthew Root. Going off is Paul Murphy. Richie Doyle is on as well, and he normally plays.
Richie Doyle is on, yeah, for Paul Murphy, and Colin Fennelly gone off as well there, Marty. Matthew Root gone on corner forward for him. Great opportunity to give lads a run now with 8 or 9 minutes to go, and you're sure you're placed in the final. And double scores, hard to believe, Marty just said it. I just can't believe it. I thought it would go down to the wire today, and it's just a huge performance by Kilkenny again. And just to go back to that Leinster final, Marty, you know, sometimes when you're on the road so long, Kilkenny needed that motivation. You know, Galway played brilliantly on the day. Kilkenny were well beaten, kind of no complaints, but it was a great way to go back training the following week and say, lads, you know, are we going to finish up like this? And you know, the players have responded magnificently. And I believe the meeting they had on the Monday night, Brian Cody took a lot of personal responsibility, spoke to the players about, you know, maybe playing with bits of injuries and all that, didn't want it. And unless you were fit to play with your clubs, unless you were fit to come in and training, he didn't want you in there. And a lot of straight talking was done, and you can see the result of it here today. Great men back to their very best.
Very impressive performance by Kilkenny, and Tommy Walsh lays it back for his Brian Hogan, gives it to Michael Fennelly. Brendan Maher was the number 8 coming into challenge. Picked up by John O'Neill, and that's a point for Tipperary and for John O'Neill. Five minutes left in this All-Ireland semi-final, and all you can say, look back in awe almost the way Kilkenny displayed all their hurling skills in this second half. Unstoppable. Brendan Maher is going off. James Woodlock is on in the middle of the field.
Yeah, Tip, what have they got? 4 points in the second half, Marty. They're starting forward, and Par Burke had a go from play. Bonner Maher didn't score, Larry Corbett didn't score, Brian O'Mara didn't score, John O'Brien got 1 point, and Noel McGrath got 2 points, and you know, that's not going to be enough.
Leaving some of them disappointed, heartbroken with the display of Tipperary, particularly in the second half. And by the way, John O'Neill's point, that was their first score since the 46th minute, as Henry Shefflin adds on another. Well, you can start looking for your tickets for the All-Ireland in Fogarty.
Yeah, Conor Fogarty's gone on midfield, and Killian Buckley gone into left half forward.
David Herrick. Drops this in around the square. Henry Shefflin gets a touch. Brendan Cummins relieves the pressure momentarily. Par Burke had a touch. Richie Parr had the vision. Brian Hogan has the effort. Brilliant hurling by Kilkenny. Now there's a sequence of play that could be shown to young lads.
Yeah, great ball
all
out
over
there.
The country.
But Brian Hogan has had some game. You know, like he was missing. He was missing the last day. He was injured. Just back training in the last 10 days or so. And what a performance he's given today! It's completely taken Bonner Maher out of the game, who's been a key man for Tipperary this year.
Ball goes down towards Owen Larkin. Lays it off. Fires TJ Reid. Was afraid the referee saw the infringement. And of course, coming up tonight, the Sunday game at 9:30 on RT2. You can see highlights of this All-Ireland semi-final and plenty of talking points, and a look ahead, of course, to the first of the All-Ireland football semi-finals as well. Yellow card for Conor O'Mahony as frustration takes hold here. Challenge on TJ Reid.
Well, you can see that, you know, it was a nice slap into the face guard again, and a dangerous tackle. A lot of frustration creeping in now to Tipperary players.
Once again, the umpire is going for the white flag. They're in no rush whatsoever to get to their flag. So he gets there eventually, and it's another point for Henry Shefflin. In the middle of the field is Conor O'Mahony. Noel McGrath. Pádraig Maher pumps it into the space. Tipperary need goals, and they need them very, very fast. That's a good score.
Yeah, John O'Neill, you'd have to say, look, lively, nice points since he came on, but you know, points at this stage obviously no good, but he's took a couple of nice scores. And just going back to Henry there, you know, scored 9 points today, all from place balls, nothing from play, but still it's his leadership or something. He had the goal in the first half, great run, and he hadn't been in the game. But you know, that's at this stage of his career, they can't be expecting him, and the other players have really stood up to the mark today and taken the pressure off him.
1 minute of additional time to be added on in this semi-final. JJ Delaney dancing away from John O'Neill's challenge. Kilkenny superior in every sector at this stage. Long ball again down towards Larkin. More trouble for Tipperary. Lovely pick up by Larkin, but Tipperary win the possession back. Comes down towards Shane McGrath. Battling here with Conor Fogarty. Stepping away is James Woodlock. Farris Pa Burke. Burke's effort is right and wide. Giving Tipperary 9 wides in this All-Ireland semi-final. But the reality is the Munster champions have been well beaten in this latter 35 minutes of action.
They have indeed, Marty, and you know, I think there's a big message was sent out Galway. You know, and it's good for Galway, I think, too, that Kilkenny have won like this today, because, you know, in case if there was ever going to be any complacency going into a final, Galway are going to have to know that unless they're at their very, very best. And you know, obviously Kilkenny will have the motivation of the Leinster final, but you know, Galway can't let that worry them. They have to go back and do their work and get ready for the final. And there's another great score. There's a score from Henry now. I said he hadn't scored from play, and there's a great point from way out the field.
10 points for Henry Shefflin. He must have heard you, Michael, because that's his first point from play. And the full-time whistle blows in Croke Park. No question that Brian Cody is heading back to Croke Park, to this venue that he's graced for so many years as a player and as a manager. It's a repeat of the Leinster hurling final, which Galway won. What about that for a mouth-watering prospect? Pádraig Maher can only sigh in disappointment as Richie Power, Noel Hickey and Kilkenny show that they have the hunger, they have the appetite. And considering that the sides were level 8 times, it's an amazing turnaround. An awesome performance by Kilkenny, and really at times they looked unstoppable. Henry Shefflin, despite getting a yellow card from the referee, can afford a smile. For Brendan Cummins, it's not every day of the week. He's beaten 4 times, only 1 shot he might be disappointed with. The others was just simply unstoppable. Henry Shefflin scores 10 times, once from play, encouraged by Michael Dignan.
Absolutely. Well, Marty, I don't think he needs to be encouraged by me to score. He's an absolute, you know, the all-time greatest player probably that we've certainly seen. And you know, what a performance by Kilkenny. You know, it's unusual you go after a match and say, I can't remember one Tipperary player that maybe got the better of their man today. I think Kilkenny won every single battle out there. They played absolutely fantastic stuff, and great performance by them. And you know, it's back to really back to the drawing board for Tipperary.
3 goals in the second half by Fogarty, Larkin and Reid gives this a very impressive scoreline. Before a crowd of 50,220, Kilkenny are back in the All-Ireland final for a record-breaking 7th All-Ireland time in a row. Full-time score in Croke Park, Kilkenny 424, Tipperary 115.
In the commentary box on that All-Ireland hurling semi-final, Marty Morrissey and Michael Dignan. So it's Kilkenny who will face Galway in the 2012 All-Ireland senior hurling final. That, of course, will be on. Are Kilkenny finished?
Well, thanks for got that one right. Listen to me. We all know, as far as I'm concerned, we're looking at the best team of all times. Even if they lost today. But of course, in the one it's easier to say that. But they went in a point at half-time down, and they come out the second half, they get 3-15. All their forwards score. But you have to hand it to Brian Cody. He picked Kieran Joyce today, relatively unknown outside Kilkenny. Okay, we know him in circles, but not that highly taught. You know, no one is outside in the inter-county scene. Brilliant game. Like Fogarty steps up to Aidan Fogarty, probably the best game of his life. Owen Larkin hadn't been really shining all year, and next thing he was out today, turns it on. They're the guys that turned on to it, but they really won it. Now, Killian Buckley, I met Brian as a thing for cancer during the week, and he told me Killian was going very well. And he told me, by the way, I picked the team last Sunday, he said, you've got the team wrong. I didn't put in, I hadn't Joyce in on the team, but he told me Buckley was going very well, which he showed there today when he came on for Rice. The team didn't get weak. But as they went on, I was talking about the fitness. Well, the fitness did come into it, but like their strength, their physicality, their scoring ability. Like you'd imagine Tip would have it as well. No, they had, but they were just blown out. They were beaten by a better team. And like, that's Kilkenny are going to be hot favourites going into against Galway. It's probably good for Galway to see how good Kilkenny were. But that's Kilkenny at full flow. And maybe Galway was the injection that they needed. Now, Brian did say to me as well at that function that he knows how to play Galway, but he said, I don't know, are we good enough to beat them? Now, they know well, deep down, they'll be figuring they're good enough. It's going to be a great game, but I feel honoured and privileged to have seen a fantastic game. Once it settled down, again, we had a few shenanigans going on. It could have gone out of control. Lucky enough, no one got a red card, but and that's the way it should be, I suppose. But they are a great team. Tip will have to go back to the drawing board, but Kilkenny are going to take some stopping.
That match reminded me, Ger, of it was like in the second half an arm wrestle, where two fellas are eyeballing each other, and then eventually one gives, and your knuckles are on the table.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying that if you don't learn from the mistakes of history, you're bound to repeat them. And if you look at the history of Kilkenny hurling, if you try wild physical stuff on Kilkenny are going to come out on top eventually. Absolutely. You won't beat them with any kind of wild physical stuff. What Tipperary did there in the second half, with Larry Corbett's behaviour in the second half, was absolutely crazy stuff. Trying to mark a Kilkenny back, and he's supposed to be the main scorer for Tipperary. Now, as we said at half time, Kilkenny were going to launch that fierce assault in the second half. And it was relentless. You know, the pace, they upped the pace, they upped the intensity, they kept their shape, because no matter what you do with them, they're going to keep their shape. They create the overlap, and then they go a point or two up. Next thing, they have a goal got, game over.
Game over, and let's hear from the Kilkenny manager, Brian Cody. He's talking to Claire McNamara.
Brian, is that as emphatic and as comprehensive a win as in your long time in charge of Kilkenny?
That's a very satisfying win, Claire, obviously, you know. I mean, at half time, I think we're a point down, and obviously a huge game in front of us, and we settled well in the second half, and obviously we got goals, you know, which are crucial in a game like that, and we probably got very good goals as well, so very satisfying. But I mean, the prize for today is to get to the All.
Anthony Daly is here with me. Anthony, they were simply awesome in the second half.
Yeah, yet again, Claire, we're running out of stuff to say about them, but 7 All-Irelands in a row, I think it's a record, and incredible team, incredible squad, incredible management, and you have to take your hats off to them. I mean, I was up there in the press box and wondered at half time what would it be like in there, because they'd been 5 ahead and they found themselves a point down, and there was questions about the legs after the Galway game, and you were saying Tip were fresher and younger, but they just absolutely blitzed them. They blitzed their backs in the second half. Aidan Fogarty, TJ Reid, outstanding. Larkin, I mean, when they got the chances in the second half, they really took them. I think Brendan Cummins will be a bit disappointed with Aidan Fogarty's goal, all right. But to be fair to Brendan, he stopped a certain goal from Conor Fennelly in the first half. But they just, incredible. 4-24, like, again, you know, against a Tip team that had won Munster by winning 3 games as well, quarter, semi and final, come through a tough campaign, like, as opposed to last year. And people felt they would be more ready for it this year because of that, because they kind of eased through it last year. But you know, they're on a different planet when they play like that.
And I suppose Tipperary didn't help themselves with some of the tactics, particularly what we saw with Larry Corbett.
Yeah, I'd, you know, be slow to criticise mentors and that, because, you know, many's the mistake I've made myself. But you know, Larry Corbett trying to get onto Tommy Walsh for the whole game, and Jackie Terrell running around then, and the 4 of them, Pat Burke then, sure, it suited them down to the ground really. They had you know, 2 of their main forwards tied up, and why after 10 minutes, like, they didn't just decide to put Lar in as a orthodox corner forward or full forward and say, right, take our chances here, he's a very good player. But they seemed obsessed with trying to get him onto Tommy, maybe to run Tommy or something like that. But sure, Pat Burke is as fast as you'd meet as well, like, so strange tactics, and it took a long time to change. And obviously must be something wrong with Owen Kelly not coming on as well, because you'd imagine he'd have come on very early in the game. But
he was carrying an injury, we understand. Just very briefly, Anthony, Kilkenny and Galway, the rematch, how do you see that one going?
Yeah, you'd wonder what's going through Anthony Cunningham's mind driving home now. He's probably saying, what have we to do? And usually, you know, over the years, if somebody tries a tactic with Kilkenny and it works, it can upset them on a given day, and it certainly did in the Leinster final. But does it work the second day? They'll do their homework, and they look sharp, they look hungry. Richie Hogan, will he get his place? You know, so it looks ominous for Galway, but it'll be intriguing as well, because I think Anthony Cunningham would have been probably happy that they went on and won it very well, because most people will write off Galway now altogether, whereas if they only got home by a point or 2, people would be giving Galway a fair old chance of repeating well, maybe not the same sort of scoreline, but they would have repeating a victory. But people now will make them out and out favourites, and that might suit Galway a little bit. But sure, look at how it'd be very hard to back against Kilkenny at this stage.
We have that to look forward to.
It's a serious job ahead.
We had expected this to be such a close, tight encounter, and it was for much of the time, but simply awesome in the second half. You blew Tipperary away.
Well, we played very well in the second half, you know, and again, it can turn on nothing sometimes, you know. I mean, you couldn't see that performance coming really. but we had created, we scored 1 goal and created another good goal chance in the first half, which we didn't take. And, you know, I think that probably their goal, I would have feel, was preventable by us as well. So, you know, we were going pretty well in the first half, but we certainly upped the gears the second half, and we did play very well for sure.
You were at 1 point down at the end of the first half. It was very physical at times. Things boiled over several times.
I wouldn't say boiled over, no. I mean, it's just the usual bit of pushing and shoving and stuff like that, you know, and that becomes exaggeration a small bit when 2 more fellas go into push and shove, you know. So, look, there's a great rivalry. It's hurling, it's a be all and end all. I mean, we're in the All-Ireland final and Tipperary are gone now, so I mean, everything at stake, you know, and there was nothing crazy out there and like that. It was just good, manly stuff.
You did lose Michael Rice, though, but it didn't have a great impact as it happened.
Yeah, Michael's a huge player for us, and he got a very, very bad finger injury. You know, he had to go to hospital with and that. So we're just hoping that he'll be okay for the final. But Killian came in and played really well.
Now you set up an All-Ireland final with Galway again. You may have lost your Leinster final, but you certainly sent out a huge message today that you're not going to give up your All-Ireland title very easily.
Well, we're not. Obviously, that would be the intention. But I mean, the last day we played Galway, there was only one team in it. You know, to give us a lesson, really. You know, and we were miles away, and they went on to follow that on with a great performance against Cork. I'm not going to start blowing them up and blowing us down or anything like that, but it's a huge game ahead, you know, and the reality of it again is, you know, either team is capable of beating the other, so something terrific to look forward to for a few weeks.
I suppose many people thought, Brian, that maybe Kilkenny were vulnerable after that defeat earlier this summer, but you certainly answered many of those questions today quite emphatically.
Well, everybody is vulnerable in sport, you know, I mean, and it doesn't mean that if you lose one game that you're suddenly, you may be vulnerable, but you mightn't be finished. So, I mean, we're not finished, but we're always vulnerable, I suppose.
You're looking forward to another All-Ireland. 13 of the last 15 you'll have contested?
I don't know for sure anything about that, but I mean, I look forward to this one for sure. It's great. It's a fantastic time for any county to be in the All-Ireland final, and, you know, we're thrilled to be there.
Congratulations today, Brian.
Thanks, Claire.
Kilkenny manager Brian Cody. Brian doesn't give much away, but you can see satisfaction in that.
Oh, absolutely. What a performance, you know. And you're saying a half-time going in, only a point down, you know, kind of the momentum was with Tipperary at that kind of going in a half-time, coming out the second half. But they just totally took over the game in the second half period. Dominated in their half-back line, dominated in their full-back line. And you feel sorry for the Tipperary defence because there's nothing they could do with ball raining down on top of them non-stop. And I'm just gobsmacked and stunned by the Tipperary management on the basis of the way they played the game in the second half, particularly up front. I mean, they made no attempt to actually open up Kilkenny. They've seen against Galway how Galway could actually open up wide, and instead they wanted to take him on in the physical stakes. They had Bonner-Maher inside full forward. Bonner-Maher has been their best player at number 11 at centre forward. Our wing forward. And they never attempted to open up the space, to play the ball down the channels, to play it outside, to drag the Kilkenny guys. And they tried to match it up, and they got their answer. They were absolutely blown out of it.
Yeah, they weren't just beaten, Ger. I mean, there was a massive gap on that scoreboard.
This was a complete demolition job, but it just shows the greatness of that Kilkenny team. You know, we have said about trying them on the physical stakes, but even on the hurling stakes, when they up that pace and up that intensity and the work rate and the support play, you know, you know, Cyril said at half-time about the catching in the air was brilliant. The second half, Brian Hogan, the catches, Tommy Welsh, should they control the air completely? When you control the air, you have the ball. And when you have the ball, then they're able to lay it on, a man coming in support. Brian Cody is always saying it's a simple game. And it is a simple game the way they play it, even though to get a team playing it like is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And all those people who go on with statistics and the amount of times a fella play the ball, Kilkenny don't indulge in that.
They can play it anyway, they can mix it, match it.
High, low, fast or slow, doesn't matter what way it comes, they can play it. And they always have that man to create the overlap, and when he gets it, they just punish the mistake you make.
You were saying to me in the second half, sir, we're watching the second half, you were noting how Kilkenny was, you said, just driving the ball up the middle of the field all the time.
I have to laugh. We'll be all coaching if I said low ball, crossfield ball, get out in front. Kilkenny, it was like Scud missiles. Get it direct, high up. Now they go up and field, and if they don't catch, they knock it down to a runner. Now the runner mightn't get it to hold it. When he does, he's gone through. But more than likely, they'll catch it, turn, take it head on. It's very, as a boy says, it's a very, very simple game. But every man has to fight for his own ball. And the guy I'll pick out today would be Fogarty. Broke a leg, took a while to come back, and he does everything. He catches the hurl left top, and he seems to switch it, but he knows himself what he's doing. But if you're coaching young lads again, you'll be doing it the other way. He seems to do everything, we call it wrong, but he's very, very effective. Now, he came back from, you know, nearly mission impossible. He fought for every, he was like a dog, he fought for every ball. His desire to go on and win the hard ball. And as the boy said, like, they were going on the ball, whereas Tips seemed to be trying to match up man for man and hitting belts. That's not the way to beat. Now, Galway kind of showed what can be done on a good day, but like, Kilkenny will know what Galway, they dragged the defence out the last day. That won't happen the next day. It's going to be one hell of a game. But you'll have to admire Kilkenny because they took the belts, they drove on, took all the belts and won the game with some great hurling. And as it went on, all the forwards, even the first half, like most of the tip scores had come from Padburke, from place balls, and from general play. But the Kilkenny scores are all over the place, popping here and there. And once they got in the flow, very hard to stop.
He's right. I mean, Tip did match up to him for the first period. I mean, they did match up on the physical stakes. But when the game opens up, then you must go and think about the scoreboard.
Yes,
you must push on. But they never did that today.
Yeah.
Well, you see, the skill level of Kilkenny is just fantastic. You can take all the other attributes they have and everything else, but that skill level, when they get the ball, they're not afraid to shoot for a point. They're not afraid to give a pass 60 yards away to take a chance. And the diagonal ball today caused absolute havoc to that Tipperary defence. I always thought, you know, if you think of Tipperary giving away 24 points to Cork in the championship, they were vulnerable. And Kilkenny will watch well. Where's the weakness? The weakness is in the ball coming across rather than coming forward. And all the cross ball today and all the scores they got from that. It's just brilliant.
OK, lads, we're headed for a short break here on the programme. Back with more on today's All-Ireland Senior Hurling semi-final right after that. Tipperary manager Declan Ryan, he's with Clare.
Declan, I imagine you've come from a very sombre dressing room. That was a very heavy defeat.
Yeah, tough day at the office, alright. You know, we prepared very well coming into the game. We came up with high hopes today, but you know, for 35 minutes there, we competed with the best team around, and for the second 35, we were blown off the field, I suppose. No complaints. Better team won.
Yeah, you were right in it, as you say, at half-time. Your nose is just in front, and even within that half, you had come from 5 points down, which must have given you good confidence.
Yeah, I mean, our guys had played reasonably well in the first half. You know, a couple of things maybe could have gone a little better for us, but you know, there's no excuses today. Hats off to Kilkenny; they're by far the better team, and there isn't any more you can say really.
As you said, they did blow you away in the second half. There was simply no response to their goal scoring.
Yeah, they seem to win all the breaking balls there. They got a couple of goal chances and put them away. But you know, I'm very proud of all our guys. You know, John O'Brien and his family had a tough week there, and the full credit to him for the way he tugged out today. You know, our guys have played, you know, trained really, really well all year there. So I'm just heartbroken for those guys that have put in such an effort. You know, that we didn't put up a better performance in the second half. But there's a lot of great players in there, and they'll be back again.
Can I just ask you about Larry Corbett's role today, because he did seem to follow the Kilkenny defenders around a lot. It almost became a bit of a sideshow, a bit farcical at times.
Well, I suppose that's just one of the tactics that we work out for the game, and you see how he got on with it. I'm not sure how well it worked today, but we'll have to have a look at it again.
Well, clearly, I suppose it didn't work. What about Owen Kelly? Was obviously one of the reserves you had on the bench. He didn't play a part today. Yeah,
Owen was struggling with a bit of a groin injury there, so you know, we weren't in a position to use him, unfortunately.
Okay, obviously he would have made a difference, you felt.
Yeah, well, you know, Owen is a great player, fantastic, proud Tipperary man. Like all the guys in there, would have been delighted to be able to bring him on there today, but unfortunately we weren't in a position to do so.
I suppose it is hard to stomach such a heavy defeat, Declan. Do you think this might be the end of an era for some of the players, some of the older players? Will you be back for more?
Well, I hope that they don't make any rash decisions over the next day or two. You know, there's a lot of disappointment in the dressing room there. There's a lot of proud Tipperary players in there, and I hope they don't make any decisions over the next day or two, that they'll take some time to see out the club championship and maybe make some decisions in the cold light of day.
And what about yourself?
Well, there's a lot more than myself involved in that decision, so you know, I'll have to have a chat with the county chairman, but we won't be making any decisions today anyhow.
Okay, thanks for talking to us, Declan.
Okay.
Tip manager Declan Ryan there. Ger, it's obviously very difficult to do an interview in a situation like that after such a heavy defeat, and you could see he was struggling with it. It'll take him a while to make sense out of that.
Well, sure, like we've all been in that position someday. One day the tsunami strikes, like, and you're left gasping for air, you know, and the thing is over, and for an explanation as to what happened, you know. So, you know, it's very hard to explain because they were going so well coming up to half time. That's what really makes it so hard. The 10 minutes before half time, when they score 1-3 to no score, and within a point up after being 5 points down, very hard to see that they'd lose the second half by 3-15 to 5 points. You know, what odds would you get on that at half time? So it's one of those days when everything went wrong for them, but some of them, we'd have to say, was some of the things that went wrong was self-inflicted, especially by that forward play, you know, and especially Lars' role and not moving the ball into the full forward line, as Tomas said there, putting Bonner-Maher inside full forward, you know. So it wasn't all self. Most of it, 90% of it, was down to the way Kilkenny upped their game at half time. You can imagine when down in that dressing room with Brian Cody at half time, laying it on the line. He had seen what had happened in the 10 minutes up to half time. Everything was laid on the line from him. And when it's with that team, look back over all of Brian Cody's reign. whenever he laid it on the line at half-time, even the game against Galway, they always came out with a ferocious intent to get you in that first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the second half. And that's what they did today.
Well, they certainly it was like a goal fest in the second half.
And that was exactly, go back to the Limerick match. He was seemingly inside the dressing room saying, are we depending on Tommy Welch and Henry Shefflin to win this match? Two lads he picked out. What are the rest of you at? And they went out a totally different team in the second half. And Colin Finney that day against Limerick came up trumps. Today you had Aidan Fogarty and you had TJ Reid. I mean, TJ Reid, I take my hat off to this guy because he's been on the team, he's been dropped, he's been taken off the team, but he still comes back for more. And today he got his chance, and he was absolutely a revelation at centre forward. Fantastic.
I think as well, Tomas, today it kind of proves the point. TJ Reid is in Kilkenny and they're all saying he's great man to be on the sub. That's a terrible thing for a player to be listening to the whole thing. The next thing you start believing, well, no, if I start one thing off. Now today he had to start with Richie Hogan and he laid down his marker. It's going to be some fun if he has all the Richie and all back for next year, because to me TJ Reid has to be on as well. But that's what you want as a manager. He laid down his marker. He proved that he is a very good player.
Made his contribution today, no doubt about that. Let's look at those second half goals for Kilkenny, Ger, because this really blitzed. Before that, you mentioned it a moment ago, Ger, the fact that, you know, Kilkenny's display was awesome, but Tip were the authors of their own misfortune in some of the play and the way they played.
Exactly, because they got some ball exactly as the Kilkenny forwards got the ball, but they didn't use it the same way. You know, shooting from impossible angles, you know, balls skying up to the air. It reminds you of Dublin against Kilkenny the night in Portlaoise. You know, lobbing an old ball up into the air, hoping that it'll go over the bar. That's no good here. You know, no, here, you know, look at that. For good, you know, Noel McGrath would usually put that over the bar with his eyes closed. So it just shows like that when things start going against you, there's Lar, one of the few balls Lar hit. What the hell kind of a ball was that? Sure, that wasn't either a shot for a point, or it wasn't a ball to the advantage of a forward up at the other side. And now, how many balls like that came into the Kilkenny full forward line? Very, very few. Just hit and hope. Nobody inside, no structure to that full forward line, and no look up before the ball went. Always Kilkenny fellas, we look up before the. But look at that, those are free shots. They're free shots. They're free shots. You don't even look.
To be fair, we have to pay credit to John O'Brien. I mean, it must have been very, very difficult situation for John O'Brien to come out and play today. And look, he gave it his all. He got 2 great points there in the second half, and it just didn't work out. You know, so you've seen the standing ovation he got there going.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Both supporters, which was great.
And I suppose that puts into perspective a bad display out in a hurling field.
It's a game, like, you know, it's not a matter of life and death. You might think it is when you're playing it. When you are a manager or playing, you do, but it's not really. It's just a game.
You were demanding the rule book to be produced and introduced early on the game. I want to ask you about one particular incident in the second half. If you strike a player with the hurley, should you be sent off?
I'm going to ask Tomas to send me a rule book from Cork, because they must have a different rule book down there.
Well,
now,
I'll just let you know. I mean, the man in Cork wrote it, yeah.
He probably did. No, but like, he let his goal. Look, there was no one sent off. I don't want anyone sent off. No one does. But like, you can't have one rule, say, early on in the championship, another one there. No, there was a bit of late tackling, and what everyone was doing, you could get the wrong lad sent off. Now, Pádraig Maher isn't a dirty hurler, but he pulled back for a strike of a hurl. Like, he didn't maybe hit him that hard, but he didn't. You can see it here. He just watch it here now. Look, watch now. But no, what am I saying? Look, you can't do that.
We were talking about and arguing about the first half, right? About the Shimaz and stuff like that. How he's going to give out yellow cards. I mean, that to me is a sending off offence. Look, I mean, the intent is there to hit, right? You had a situation.
He did a bit of a clip himself.
And he was frustrated. I'd say.
We saw the Richie Hogan situation when he lashed back with his one hand as well. He got the red card. You had a situation over on the other side where Richie's helmet was pulled off his head and stuff like that, and he got no free as well, right? And now, to me, the referee was wrong.
Richie Hogan got sent off the last day for just like that. I'm just saying, you can't. The rule has to be applied or else. The
thing about this was an isolated incident in the second half. You hadn't the mayhem that you had in the first half. This was a total isolated at the first half.
And the contact wasn't.
Now, Owen Larkin did that in the league final here against Dublin 2 years ago, and he was sent off straight away. So he was a sending off offence, no question about it.
One last question to yourself, Ger Loughnane. Who's going to win the All-Ireland?
Well, sure, you know, a lot can happen between now and the 9th of September, you know, with injuries.
On the basis of what you've seen over the 2 displays in the semis.
Well, you know, you thought today, the start of the game today was very, very tough. The next day, the people in the front rows of the QC stand and the Hogan stand will have to bring their helmets coming, because it will be the first 10 minutes, as long as Galway don't get wild. There's a difference between physicality and wildness. Wildness is a disaster, but physicality is vital.
But I'll guarantee you that if that happens in the All-Ireland final, I'll guarantee you, I'll tell you now, there will be lads sent off if that happens in the All-Ireland final.
But apart from that, you know, based on what we have seen so far, if if Galway produce what they produce in the Leinster final, and Kilkenny produce what they produce today, then we'll have the game for the ages. But of course, that's not going to happen. That's one of the great imponderables, and that's what makes
it gives us
the
plenty to look
so
forward
great.
to.
Exactly.
It surely does. All right, now a note about
is an added bonus, but at the end of the day, regardless of who we would have been facing, you know, the goal is still the same. You know, we want to win that match and win the All-Ireland, and ultimately that's what we'll be focusing in on. You know.
Yeah, so there it is, the lineup for the 2012 All-Ireland Hurling final. It's Galway versus Kilkenny on Sunday, September the 9th. Now, there's so many talking points. We're getting a lot of contact from our viewers about Tipperary's tactical performance and Lara, etc. But first of all, it's only right, Donald, to give credit to Kilkenny for an awesome performance.
Yes, Des, I suppose when you look at it at half-time, and if you look at it dispassionately, you'd see, you know, that Kilkenny were the better team, they were more creative. Tip, I think, you know, just after Kilkenny had scored, Tip came back and got, you know, lucky enough for a goal. David Hurling maybe could have cleared it, and they were staying in the game. The spread of scores for Kilkenny was much greater in the first half, but really when, you know, after the first goal went in the second half by Aidan Fogarty, you know, they really, the floodgates opened, and then you saw the real Kilkenny take over, and Tip kind of lost their way a bit. You know, I was baffled a little bit by their tactics, I must say. And you know, at the end of the game, you know, it was just target practice for Kilkenny.
We're going to chat, Michael, about the Tip tactics and have a look at it in a moment. But like leadership seemed to be gone as well on the pitch.
Yeah, well, I suppose the first thing is I think the whole country is amazed by the result. You know, I think most people couldn't make up their mind, and you know, I went for Tip last week. I have to put my hands up. I thought it'd be a tight game, one way or the other, but you know, I can't believe the scoreline at the end of the game. And exactly, you know, Tip can be a bit like that. You know, they can be a little bit flaky, but it was Kilkenny, you know, who had all the leaders, who had all the passion, the desire, the determination, and you know, again at half-time there was only a point in it, and Tip were leading, and it was totally against run of play in my opinion. But yet it was a great place to be, and I expected them to come out in the second half and build on that, but they didn't. They had no shape to their forward play, and you know, Kilkenny just completely outscored them. I think Tip scored 1-7 from play, Kilkenny scored 4-13 from play, which is, you know, and Tip only scored a few points in the second half.
Yeah,
so
I think it was 3-15 to 5 points in the second half. Which
yeah,
was
like it was just it was an amazing result, but a great, you know, you have to say a brilliant performance by Kilkenny. But I wouldn't be, if I was Kilkenny, I wouldn't be getting overly carried away with it, because I think it was hard to believe how poor Tipperary were.
Okay, well, let's start looking at it now. As you said, Tip hanging in there. Ironically, they led by a point, not being the better team. But then a couple of key moments and key scores you felt turned it.
Yeah, I think early in the second half, I think the first goal by Kilkenny put enormous pressure on Michael Carroll, a free, and then this one. And if you look at it, Colin Fennelly's enough time, take a few steps, look across, and he sent a lovely looping ball. You could see that Aidan Fogarty had a 10-yard run on Thomas Stapleton. And, you know, this set the tone really. This was a marvellous score by Kilkenny, and I think it put them, you know, they went a point in front then. And this was, you know, this was the turning point. Great burst of speed. Well, Fogarty always had that, and, you know, the ball, I felt when he hit it that there was a little spin in the ball. I think Conor Manning got a slight little hook, and the spin, I think, caught Brendan Cummins, and once it took his hurley, it went into the corner. But, you know, this finished the game then as a match. Right, great. A lot of space for Kilkenny. Once they got the goal, their half forward, they moved away out into the middle field, left loads of space in front of Owen Larkin. He was very sharp today, and when he gets the ball like that and he runs at you, very, very difficult to stop. So once Kilkenny got those scores, you know, they were on a roll, and with 20 minutes to go, I think the game was finished.
Now, Brian Hogan's post-match interview, Michael, gave an example of how hungry they still are and the focus in the final. And they showed that hunger, didn't they? And with the pressure they were putting on the Tip players.
Well, I think throughout the field, yeah, and what you normally look for is for your forwards to lead, you know, from your full forward line to put the pressure on. And Pádraig Maher here was shown, he's a key man for Tipperary so often. But look at TJ Reid breathing down his neck, forces a half clearance. Now Richie Power comes in, you know, probably a foul there, got away with it. Hand pass in here to Aidan Fogarty again, and he puts it over the bar. But I think it's one of the first times I could say I was at a match where I think Kilkenny won every battle on the field. I think they won all outfield battles, and you know, that's very unusual. But you see here again, you know, Tipperary trying to burst out with the ball, over carrying Kilkenny men everywhere. There's 5 Kilkenny men in the frame there. Here's Conor Mahoney in the second half. He's just surrounded there by TJ Reid. There's Colin Fennelly tackling, and Paul Kern trying to burst out here, and you know, look, half a clearance out now. I think maybe Aidan Fogarty had the hurling around the neck, but there you go again. TJ Reid, Owen Larkin again a flick, and then Aidan Fogarty fouled by Conor Mahoney. And you know, that sets the tone, and it makes it very easy on your backs. I felt that Tipperary couldn't get any sort of a supply into their forward line because of the pressure that Kilkenny were putting on, and the tone was set by their forwards today.
Yeah. So Tipperary people looking at it, will have been alarmed by several things, maybe lack of leadership, but you said lack of creativity was a huge factor.
You could see there in those clips that Michael highlighted, there was a lack of support play all through. I mean, you offload the ball quickly. If you're playing Kilkenny and you want it, you offload the ball fast, and Paddy Maher drives forward here. He's been tackled by Owen Larkin, who's a full forward at this stage, and we just highlighted there's 4 Tipperary forwards, like, who you'd be expecting to be inside. John O'Brien is the furthest forward. Paddy Maher was left with little to do and knocked the ball forward straight into David Herity, and there was only 4 points between him at this stage, so a point or two there would have brought Tipperary back into it. There's Noel McGrath, lovely little ball into John O'Brien, and when he turns and looks, there's the amount of space that you can see inside. No option for John O'Brien, can't do anything with it except maybe shoot for a score, which he does. And then the ball comes off the post, and a cute corner forward ball really, and it's knocked into net, and the first man in there is Patrick Bonamar, who's not a scorer really, he's a worker and a provider. And Noel McGrath, wonderful skills, but just gets the ball, hits it over the shoulder. See inside there, no forward when they were chasing the game. I think 5 points in at that time. So you could see, I think, you'd be very frustrated if you were a Tipperary fan there today looking at that type of play, because you'd expect a lot more from them.
And do you think the forwards were drifting out because there was no ball coming in?
Well, it's hard to say, Des, because I mean that's one of the reasons. But I mean, the thing is, they took off Brian O'Mara, who's a target man. They had Patrick Bonamar, who's a provider in full forward. That's fair enough if you want to play him there and you break the ball, but then you have to have a scorer next to him. But they all seem to be chasing around. I wasn't sure what tactics they were playing. They were trying to isolate Kilkenny backs, but they weren't then running in, off their shoulders or angle play. I thought it was a very mismatch sort of a performance by Tipperary up front. And in fairness to their half-backs, it would be very hard for them to pick out forwards because they were standing in a cluster, as we saw,
Well, that leads us to the Lar, which is emerging as the story today. I feel sorry for Lar on one level, but this is tactically the bizarre element.
Well, the first thing happened today, Kilkenny went man-to-man on the 6th. They didn't play in any position. They said they pick up a man each. We won't go through who was on who. But Lara went out. I don't know what his role was in the game today. He's a class player over the years, a brilliant forward. You see now Jackie Turl maybe pull out of his helmet there at the start. But Lara seemed to be obsessed with following Tommy Walsh around and trying to get in his face. Tommy had a yellow card early in the game. But, Declan Ryan intimated after that it was tactics. And, to me it was the most bizarre thing I ever saw. Lara Corbett basically and Pat Burke and Jackie Turl and Tommy Walsh were within a few yards of each other for the whole game, and I think as a result there was no shape to the Tipperary forward line, because obviously there was 2 other players out of it straight away. I think Lara made no contribution to the game. They played into Kilkenny's barrel, they put no pressure on the Kilkenny defence, and you can see the frustration of Lara. He had his hands up, he was looking out to the sideline, and he got involved there with Jackie Turl.
You can't blame his frustration.
Well, I can't, but what I can't, I don't know, and none of us know whether it was a tactic that, what was the tactic if it was a tactic. But like, this is the other side of Lara Corbett. A ball is just flicked into him here by Bonner Maher, and just watch this hand pass here, like the back of his hand into John O'Neill. And, he scored. I think Tipperary set up 2 years ago in 2010. Their tactics were a lot of movement in their forward line and Lara breaking onto the ball, and he scored 3 goals. Today he was totally concentrating on the man or on outside issues, and as I said, there was no shape whatsoever.
Okay,
and like Tipperary ended up, it's their biggest championship defeat since 1897. And it just, I don't know what was going on. It was confusing and embarrassing.
Yeah, I can see that, but in fairness to management, and I don't know, was the tactic maybe try and annoy Tommy Walsh, keep Tommy Walsh out of the game?
Well, the thing is, obviously you want to negate the influence of Tommy Walsh when you're playing Kilkenny, because if you're hurling the ball down to him, he'll destroy. He destroyed Tip in the first half last year. Bonamar got the better of him this year, or in the second half last year. So I'd have felt Bonamar was the man for Tommy, put Noel McGrath in centre forward, and then put Lara in full forward, because it was obvious Jackie Turl was going to pick him up. I don't think Jackie's that comfortable at full back as he's in the corner, or even when he's chasing players outside, and I think he won the battle last year because Lara Corbett was running all over Croke Park, and Jackie had the simple task of just following around. I would have placed Lara Corbett full forward and try and place the ball in then in Noel McGrath centre forward. I think he's a better centre forward than wing forward. But as I said, they got caught up in trying to negate Tommy Walsh. I mean, if Tommy Walsh picked up a yellow card, which he did early on, well, the best way then is to win the ball and run at him, because he can't foul it, because if he does, he's gone. So, I mean, I couldn't understand, maybe the tactics were too negative, maybe they got caught up in that, but I felt, looking at Lara Corbett today, that maybe he was playing to instructions, and certainly they didn't work.
Have you sympathy for Lara?
Well, I have, of course, because, I mean, he's one of the top forwards in the game, but, you use your top forwards to do what they do best, and that's to get scores for you, right? And he wasn't going to get any scores running around like that, because then he got no real direct ball. I didn't see him being fed with any great amount of ball, but I would have played him inside and maybe had Pat Burke and maybe Bonamar coming on and John O'Brien coming on.
But Bonamar ended up, to me, he's been the best centre forward in the championship prior to today. He ended up playing the whole game nearly as an isolated full forward line, but high balls gone in. And Brian Hogan won at least 5 or 6 high balls in there. Brian Hogan has played a huge amount of hurling at full back for his club and has loads of experience there. So they played right into Kilkenny's barrel throughout. And, you know, just look at it, you can't take away from Kilkenny won it by 18 points in the end. They were the better team from the start of the game. But I would have thought Tip would have went out and lined up as a team in the second half instead of they looked totally disjointed. And if it wasn't Lara Corbett's decision, I obviously feel very, very sorry for him. He looked very frustrated. He was late coming out for the second half. And, you know, we've talked about him many times for all the great things he's done in the game. But whatever went on today, Tip got it badly wrong.
All right. Well, it's time to name our man of the match from this afternoon. Not an easy choice. There were several contenders from Kilkenny, but eventually Michael's choice as man of the match was Aidan Fogarty.
Aidan, congratulations. Kilkenny really sent out a very strong message today.
Yeah, look, we're delighted with the result. It's a tough game. We knew it was going to be a tough game. There's nothing between the two teams. So second half we picked up a good bit and just got the result in the end.
And your second half goal really helped you pull away.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I put the kind of spurt in the legs there, you know, and I think we were close enough, 3 or 4 points at that stage, and the goal kind of pulled away at that stage, and we're beginning to win the breaks and kind of kicked on from there.
How much are you relishing another shot at Galway?
Yeah, look, Galway absolutely blew us away in the Leinster final. Can't say nothing from it. They're a very good team, but we'll train for the next 3 weeks, put the heads down, and we'll be up for it anyway.
Well, Aidan, congratulations. You are our man of the match, and Jerry Conlon from Guinness is here to present you with the award.
All right, well.
Thank you. Please sit down.